everyone to Autism Demystified. I am your host, Dr. Vladimir Barayev, autism specialist for children, helping families navigate their unique developmental journey. And today we have a very special guest who is joining us, Irina Nozadze. I'm going to read a little bit about her bio for everyone's benefit, but I would be more interested in hearing Irina tell us more about herself shortly after. So, Irina is a dedicated ABA and early intervention therapist, parental coach, evaluator, and seminar creator with over a decade of experience supporting children with developmental delays, disabilities, and sensory needs. Holding a master's degree in special education and an advanced certificate in early intervention from Brooklyn College, Irina is passionate about empowering families through personalized strategies, evidence-based practices, and compassionate guidance. She's also a master of Reiki practitioner. So, Irina, welcome. So happy to have you here today.
Good morning, and it's an honor to be here. I'm very grateful for an invitation, and I admire Dr. Barayev, what you do. This is significant help for families you serving, and thank you. Thank you for
Oh,
the
please go on. Give me more compliments. I love getting more compliments. I'm just kidding. um, So I want to jump into for the moms who are listening today that may not be familiar. Could you just briefly explain in your own words what applied behavioral therapy is and what the main goal is in supporting children with autism?
So applied behavior therapy is, in a simplified language, would be conditioning child to a certain behavior. We do assess the child, we do observations, we use several tools to assess the child. One of them would be ABC chart, which is antecedent, behavior, and consequence. We look at the antecedent that causes the behavior, and then we provide intervention for that behavior, whether it's a negative behavior, and we create a individualized plan. We set goals, and it's a reward system we use. It could be tokens, it could be something child desires in order to condition that behavior. Yet there are several modalities in ABA, and one of them is DIR, DIR, floor time play, which is basically child-led, more play-based strategy. And this is what I personally like to use. And they're both beneficial. I would say it mostly depends on severity of a child's condition, where we would apply either straight ABA or different modalities of it.
So with DIR floor time, if a parent says you're just playing with my child, how is that helping them get any better? Can you explain a little bit more of the structure? It's like it's not just play. There's a lot more that goes into it.
Sure, there's a lot more that goes into it, because during play, what we do is, let's say we give a child shape sorter, right?
Hmm.
So while child is getting that shape, he's using his hand-eye coordination to match the hole in a bucket. We are observing child closely, where the child's eyes are going, how the physical functionality. We also observe fine motor skills of the child, whether the child is following one direction, take the red circle, or take the shape. We start very small. It could be one shape, or we could label one color. And based on that, most of it's a comprehension of information, what we are asking from the child. And so that shape sorter serves as a tool, as a physical touchable tool for a child, for us to observe whether there's comprehension, whether the child is following direction, whether the child is using hand-eye coordination, and all that could be observed through just playing with the shape sorter, for example.
Wow, that's impressive. So Now we take the shape sorter and we observing a child's behavior with it. And let's say we want to teach them, want to mold a behavior, like getting them to point to something. How would we approach something like that? We want to get them to be able to a single finger point to request something that, for children who are not able to do that.
So that's all takes structured practice, modeling, prompt. We would use hand over hand support. We would first, I personally use I do, we do, and you do strategy is where I model for a child, yet there's this delicate observation that I discovered is that the child has to be present while I'm modeling. And if
Mm-hmm.
the child is present and focused at the moment, there's 99% guarantee child would repeat what is being modeled for him. If there is difficulties with hand-eye coordination or fine motor skills for a proper grip, then we would apply hand over hand, and with practice, child would master that skill. Because what we work with is neural connections in the brain. We are building by this repetition and consistency, repeating the same pattern over and over. We do several sets per play. So what happens in the brain is that we're building new neural connections. And once that is mastered, we know child has that already. So from that behavior, we build on top of that behavior. Modeling is very important. And we start very small and short. We would model physically with the hand and adding just one word. Also, as I mentioned previously, it depends on the severity of a child's disability. So it's very unique to every child. But those tools we often use, they're hand over hand, we verbally prompt, and we observe. Observation is a key to developmental success of a child.
Mm-hmm. That is very critical. The observation component, we have to understand the child so we can figure out how we help them. One thing that the parents also want to know is how long before a child starts working with an ABA therapist will it take before we see true progress and results in the type of goals that we have set out for the child? Like, because one thing I've heard in the past that I've told families is that in a larger scheme, that ABA therapy basically takes things that we take for granted, simple tasks, but we break them down into smaller skill sets, and we help those kids learn the small skill sets. So if a neurotypical child, that simple task may take a day or a week to learn. When we're using ABA approach, we expand that learning time because we're learning many more skills just in smaller intervals. So how long before progress can be seen, and how should parents even look to define what progress is? Like, is only getting the goal is progress, or moving the needle is progress? Like, how do you approach that question?
That's a great question. Thank you so much. I feel like my mind is racing faster than my words gonna come out right now.
Good.
So, again, I'm gonna go back to that every child is unique, and they truly are so unique. I'm gonna speak with average developing child with neurological disorder here. And I would say, based on my observations and experiences, from day one, the pointer would come in about month or month and a half. And once we get that, we know child is capable and we ask more from a child. In terms of how parent views it, is what I observed with my experience is that parents usually focus more on something child is unable to do. And our job here is to shift that perspective of, look, we often point to, look, your child did this, your child is succeeding here and here. So we shift that perspective so a parent could see. The more parent sees abilities of a child, the faster child develops and succeeds in his journey of therapy.
And the child's feeling of the parents' confidence in them. Are Do you find in your experience that children are very intuitive in feeling like my parent knows that I'm able to do this, or my parent thinks that I'm not going to be able to do this, therefore I'm going to struggle with it further? Like, how have you seen children respond to the cues from the parent, even nonverbal cues?
I th- that's amazing. That I would say this is one of my favorite topics in therapy. Um, it all equals to parental acceptance of a current developmental level of a child. And children, young children, they perceive all the information through their body. They learn through their body, touch, eyesight, hearing, taste, and smell. And it's it's on a level that is unseenable. We can really see it, but the way a parent perceives the child, whether it's feeling of sorrow, whether it's a feeling, oh, I see my child is unable, or opposite, the parent might say, oh wow, I see how fast my child is progressing. It's something you don't see, it's something child feels. If the child feels that he's not yet there where his mother would love to see him, they would feel not accepted. Therefore, they would not develop as fast. It's on a level, I'm going to use this word here, it's an energetic level that children feel it. And it is a very important component, and I cannot stress it enough. We focus as parents, as therapists, as a whole team. Child might have OT, PT, speech therapist. We focus on what child can do. We vision and view our child where the child might be in a month or 3 or 2. It's it's a parental job, sort of, to view the child with all the abilities that they might want, yet not pushing and expect that it has to happen now. It's a journey, and but it's a great journey. Children love to play. Children, with all the experiences that we're having as therapists and my colleagues, we're seeing they thrive. From a day we get the child, and at the end of a therapy year, these are different children. Then parents say, wow, that's a new child. And we say, yes, it is. The more we focus on positive aspects, that simple pointer, even if it's nonverbal, it's a big work for a child. It is a communication. So we focus on positivity.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's beautifully said. Beautifully said. Um, there are some very interesting interdisciplinary dynamics that happen, meaning there are some messages out there that SLP, speech and language pathologists, and ABA therapists, uh, some don't enjoy working with kids who have another provider in their life. I'm not sure why. How do you speak to the integration between the work between what a speech language pathologist does and an ABA therapist working together and collaborating for helping a child reach their potential?
I find collaboration to be very important because we all want one outcome for the child at the end. And we communicate with the parental therapist, and parental communication is very important daily after each session, so we can update the parent. Once it comes to other specialists, we do collaborate. It could be collaboration over the phone, or we sometimes meet each other if the child's in a daycare setting, and we do discuss the goals, we do discuss the progress of a child, because this is what I find interesting, is that every therapist the child has gives the child something that other doesn't. This is why we're a team, and that child needs all the specialists in order to reach certain goals. And in terms of liking or not liking, if therapist's focus is on a child, this question would not be a discussion. This question simply would not arise. We are focusing, our major focus in what we do is development of that child to reach those goals and ask even more above those goals that we have in IFSP. So collaboration is important, and we do need to collaborate, and there's no discussion in that we like it or don't like it. It's a must. Yes.
I agree with you. Amen. And I include everyone in that. I include the child's teachers in that, and their doctor should collaborate with them, and their dentist even. It should all be one team collaborating effort with the family, because the one of the biggest challenges that I see is that parents have to be the one that do all the collaboration and try to put the pieces together and communicate from one specialist to the other, as opposed to the specialists and the professionals collaborating with one another to optimize it. So the more we work as a team, the less burden we have to put on the parents that are already dealing with significant stress and challenge in their own lives, to help their child reach their potential. Now, I want to really dive deeply into this one topic that I can guarantee you many of the families here have challenges with, and even professionals struggle with, is that finding an antecedent for a child's behavior is not always easy. Knowing what their motivator is not always easy. What strategies can help us to make that process easier when you are designing a plan for a child, like knowing what is triggering this child's behavior, what I guess workflow or what techniques can be applied when we're not sure what's triggering a certain behavior in a child?
Sure. So I would say it's very simple, actually. It's
Good.
so based on observations. It's a close observation, which is supposed to be done throughout all the setting the child is engaged in. Whether it's a school, let's say there is a out of seat behavior child displays in school. We want to sit and observe and collect data at what time that is happening, what subject is being taught, whether it's a circle time, whether it's something very structured and child is unable simply to sit, right? So we're looking at the antecedent, what happens right before child would get off the chair or get off the circle time, and what child is seeking for, right? Child might display out of seat behavior. There are many reasons. They could be overstimulation. They could be no ability to physically sit, because again, there are some sensory issues, and they stand up and they walk, make a circle around the classroom, and they come back to the chair. Or they might simply ask for an iPad. They might simply not want to do the activity. So it's very important to find that antecedent. I would say data collection, timing, and at what time of the day and during what activity that certain behavior is happening. And then once we look at the data, teachers should do the data collection, parents at home if it's a possibility. I know there's some families that have several children and it might be difficult, but school always helps with that. If a child has ABA therapist, they work as a team, ABA therapist, teacher's assistant. We want to find that antecedent. It's critical to find it so we could create an intervention plan, apply it, reward child, and we could provide visuals for child to request that out of seat behavior, for example, instead of quietly standing up and walking around. Because If child is nonverbal or even verbal at times, they themselves not understanding what's happening with them, and they might simply stand up because their body needs that sensory input to walk around the classroom. So we want to observe all these little things. It takes a bit of a time. It might take a week to find that antecedent, but close observations and data collections would be number one.
So basically, you're saying that they're not just being bad kids, that they're getting up and not listening to people. There's actually a reason for some of the behavior. That if we look carefully and closely enough, most of the time, more often than not, we will find something.
I'll say more. There are no bad kids in this planet Earth. Every single negative behavior the child is displaying, when it's a very bad tantrum, that is a cry for help, because simply also depends on the age of a child. They might not even understand what's going on with themselves. And that cry, that tantrum that they display, help me. That equals help me, please, whether it's a teacher or a parent at home. And every single person that would observe that behavior would define the behavior based on their own perceptions, based on their own conditionings and programs. However, child would not cry just because, right? So
Mhm.
every behavior, such as we discussed, out of seat behavior, there are no bad child. There is a child that needs extra support. Some need extra attention. Some need extra sensory stimulation in order for them to feel complete and actually focus on what's being given and taught to them.
What would you say to a parent who is considering ABA for their child for the first time, and they have some doubts or they have some concerns about working with an ABA therapist? How would you help them with their decision-making process?
I would probably, it depends where their confusion is, but I would probably advise them to
Mhm.
do observation on their own at home, if that's a possibility for them, because throughout a busy daily living, we don't get to see, and especially if it's your child, it's very hard to um, record, like observationally record certain behaviors, right? So I would encourage a parent to sit down and do that objective observation or collect some data in just few days, maybe just a day. Sit on the side and just watch your child. Why is this happening? Right? And am I able to help my child on my own right now? Or I have to take care of the baby that is in the bedroom now sleeping? What support can I give to my child myself? What support my child can get from school? ABA is um, it's a very good therapy for a child. It's something that most of the time parent is unable to do because they're parents. And I wouldn't even mix those two, being a parent and a therapist for your own child, because mother is a mother, father figure is a father figure, and children respond differently to a specialist. So also, going back to, it depends on the severity of a child, and asking yourself a question: can I be the help or change for my child right now? Or I can have a specialist for my child, a professional that would provide that support. We would have meetings, and I would try, or I would continue that in a home setting. So
So we touched upon this earlier. I just wanted to bring it back to add more detail and context to this. So you so beautifully explain how most parents cannot do ABA therapy on their child because we have a role of being parents first and foremost, and the child views us differently how they view a professional and how they respond to us and to professionals. Um, but from what a parent can control, since they're not going to become an ABA therapist for their child overnight, from what they can control, the positive confidence in their child's abilities is one area that we talked about that parent can control. What are some other things that parents are able to control within their parenting that would make their child's development flourish in a more positive light?
Great question. So I would say this. As you just mentioned, parent is a parent. When child comes from school setting, most of the time they withhold something they would let out at home. So home is a safe space for a child. That's why parents observe more of tantrums and release of those emotions that being held inside throughout the day, right? So we really want to find for parents that balance where we still keep it structured if child needs that based on intervention plan, and giving child their own space, letting the child have that tantrum, just sit next to them and be there for them with no words, but child would know mama is here, daddy is here, and I'm loved, right? So all the feelings are valid, all the behaviors are valid. It's this very thin balance, I'd say, that based again on observations and parental abilities and household abilities in general is where we want to look at. I would advise this one thing: if there's a certain behavior that um, determines safety of a child and that is being worked in school, I would highly recommend that is being structured and held in the same way at home.
Mm.
Right. So we want to see a difference between when my child is safe and um, I can let go here, right? So it's based on everyone's judgment, I would say. But those goals that our therapists are asking to keep working on, they should be worked on. We could let go in some other areas while we are parents to that child. Yes.
Those are wonderful examples. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And another topic I know you love speaking about a lot has to deal with um, the sensory differences of children with autism, and how they perceive the world and how they regulate their senses differently. How can parents help their children with specifically just helping them to build up something like a sensory diet, or helping them when they have sensory dysregulation issues, even understanding their child as to why this is going on?
Sure. So it's very common that children with neurological disorder would have would experience sensory processing challenges. Approximately 80% of children with autism exhibit sensory differences, and those significantly impact their functionality throughout the day. And there are three major sensory issues, I would call them, that children may experience. One of hypersensitivity is when you could observe your child being overloaded by noises, light, if the light is too bright, or you might notice your child cover his ears or present to be anxious, right? So there's a hypersensitivity when child doesn't get enough of sensory input. You might notice signs of that would be where child would squish himself or bite on things or try to eat unedible objects or push self towards the wall, basically applying a pressure on the body. And these children would often seek this intense input to feel regulated. So I like this example. And that also affects presence in the present moment of a child. There's this term and I use it, which is called out of body experience. At times I would come in at home and I would call a child's name and child's not responding. Or There are certain noises around and child is not responding, child is withdrawn. And the body is there. The child might be engaged in play or simply daydreaming, we call it. So that tells us child is withdrawing. It's like it's a protective response from the nervous system to withdraw. It's whether there is not enough stimuli or it is overloaded for a child. So first, obviously, we have to find which one is that and help our child with that. Uh, Being out of body is not being present at the moment and focused at what is happening around me, right? So often during therapy, we would bring child back to present moment. And what I observed throughout the years of work is that massage helps a lot for children.
Mm.
Practicing at home warm baths. If the child is fine with water, I would highly recommend to give a child a warm bath. Throw some toys in there, ducks, or depends on child's age, obviously. Um,
Water is popular.
yes, there are also bathroom crayons and paint out there. Kids love to paint and make mess. So the more sensory stimulation you provide for children, the more present they're gonna be in the moments. Therefore, the more they're gonna learn and the more functionality you will see. So I'd like to give this example is when if you squish your hand and you hold it, all your attention, try like really tight, right? Where's your attention? It hurts me,
Yeah.
right? Where's your focus in that hand? Once you let go, all right, lights are brighter. I'm focusing. Oh, I hear a truck, a fire truck out there. I hear birds singing, right? So we want to observe child's body. We want to observe tension in the body. We might feel child's calves and back and arms. Those are the areas if if child has tensity in the body. Number one, I would recommend the hot baths and a massage. Child might not allow you to touch him or her, right? So we got to find another way. We might provide a swing at home, just simply picking up the child and swinging with the child or paint. So again, it is unique to each child, but find that specific need of a child at the moment.
Swings are popular too. Very popular. I can testify to that.
Yes, yes. And those actually is the same thing, right? So if child doesn't get this feeling, their body is not complete. So we want to give it to them. We don't want to redirect and teach a different behavior just because if child is not getting that swing, they're gonna find something else, which would satisfy their body at the moment. So they can be present and focused at what we are asking from them.
Absolutely. So it's understanding, which is not always easy, but because you've taught us that we take data and we look at how the child responds to different situations, and we take very good notes about all the triggers, like what the smell is like, how many people are there, what the sounds are like, what time it is, what the child wants to do, what the child doesn't want, did the child eat today? Oh, we take all note of all those things, and we understand our children better by using our skills of observation. And observation is not something you're born with having amazing observation. You practice your observation skills. So parents get better at it over time, observing more and more behaviors. And they use support like a therapist such as yourself to point things out to them that they may not have otherwise noticed.
Correct. Correct. That's why we're there to point out to something parents not noticing.
I want to thank you so very much for joining us today here and teaching our wonderful families about ABA therapy and how therapy can enhance and improve their lives. Where can families find out more about you and all the wonderful work you do? Do you have a website, a social media handle that you wish to share with them?
Thank you so much for having me. As I said, it's an honor to share all this to be changed for other families. I hope it's a great help. And you can find me on my website is called wemetherapy.com, as well as my social media. Instagram is called weme_therapy. And I do post weekly posts and just some useful information for parents noticing how families are functioning from day to day. And based on those observations, posts are being created. Observations, very important, very important.
The title of the episode, Observe Your Child,
Here
with
you go.
Irina.
Observe your child. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for letting us know. Thank you so much for joining us today, Irina. I had a blast speaking with you. And for once again, as always, for any family in New York State who is looking to navigate autism with confidence, please contact my office at 917-819-5056. We have current availabilities for new families. Our staff will answer the phone 24 hours a day. And my name is Dr. Vladimir Barayev, and it has been a pleasure speaking with you all today. Bye.